how long must it be? Can I make it a short paragraph, like 3 lines? Not really, because I mean, 3 lines is like very short, because you know you have a lot of. Now, if it's something very important to you, I mean, certainly you should you know, write more extensively about it. See, the thing is, when you're writing a personal statement, you shouldn't really, you're gonna have to like decide which features you want to put in the personal statement. You can't write everything about, you know, you being a team player, a hard worker, and everything, but there might be few that are maybe much more unique to you, and for some that you can give an example. So you're gonna have to like, you know, you can't write you can't hit upon everything. You're gonna have to like identify those, you know, you have to talk in some depth about it. You know, you just can't like write 3 lines and for such an important paragraph, because that's a starting. That will, you know, unfortunately that's how it is. Our attention spans are so little. I mean, you know, when you read an article, it's the first paragraph that you will use to decide if you want to read more, and so that's why. I mean, you should give enough importance to it. That's what I'm trying to say. And coming back to how long it should be, I would say if you can have like fit all the paragraphs in 1 page and have it all equally spaced, kind of in equal lengths, that looks great. It looks very great in terms of how well organized your personal statement looks, you know, when it's ready to be submitted. So so that's about the hook. And you know, I mean, if you keep reading books and all, no one really talks much about it, but nowadays I really think, and again, this is something that I propose, and it kind of allows you to, you know, focus your efforts on developing that paragraph and then working to make your personal statement. Here, can I mention teaching if I apply to community hospital? Yes, you certainly can, because you know, teaching is again very desirable in a community hospital. Like I said, you know, community hospitals, some of them do serve as, you know, they do have medical students from other medical schools who rotate there. So you will be expected to teach them, might have a 3rd or 4th year medical student. So I think it's good to, what is the optimum? I think they're talking about the length of the personal statement. I mean, 1 page is enough. No one's, you know, certainly not going more than 1.25 page, but I think if you can keep it all to 1 page, that's perfect. If I have a lot of goals and plans for the future, can I make a whole paragraph about that? Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, that comes in the last paragraph, really, like your goals and plans for the future. But yeah, you can, you know, the 4th paragraph, now, you know, I've kind of described 5. You can make 6 paragraphs. I don't have any problems with that. But just the broad categories, you need to make sure you hit on those categories. So yes, you should certainly do that. How do I justify low scores on CK after low scores on step 1 exams? So yeah, again, that's a difficult question. What I've, you know, some of the applicants I've worked with do get into this kind of a problem. And one explanation that you may give is you're going to have to look again at the timing of the exam. When did you give that? Was that when you were much busier than you know, than the time when you took a step 1? Because step 1 is basic sciences, so you know, you're kind of not as stressed out, I would say. As compared to the CK when maybe you're in the middle of clinical rotations and everything. For international graduates, you know, some that I've worked with, they would then say that, hey, you know, the way medicine that is practiced in international in medical schools outside the US, it's very different than what's practiced in the US. So for example, you know, for example, for myself, you know, when I did my med school training in India, fever was like malaria, you know, fever was typhoid, but here fever is catheter-related infection. Fever is, you know, bacteria, you know, UTI, that kind of a thing. So we would, you know, I would tell the applicant maybe think in those lines and see if that might work out. And usually that does give a lot of, you know, that is quite a valid reason. You know, if you're trained to practice medicine differently, it's much more difficult for you to practice medicine like how it's practiced in the US. So that's kind of one way to do it. You posted a photo that says show don't tell. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah. How can I show that I have this? Yeah. So for example, I gave you that explanation that, if you want to show that, uh, like you are a very good team player, so like I gave you that example of someone who like takes care of a patient while working with, while collaborating with other teams. So that's like a team player. If you want to show, down the line in the extracurricular activities that, you're very social kind of person, you like, social gatherings, that kind of a thing, then you can say about how, um, uh, when you're not working, you like to meet people outside or something like that, or you like to like have dinners, so I don't know, have parties, dinners, whatever, that kind of a thing. What other quality, like if you want to talk about hardworking, so hardworking, now some of those will come out because, especially if you're an international graduate, how you overcame all those cultural differences, language barriers, language differences to kind of, get into the US healthcare system. You can talk about that. You can talk about, for example, there was one personal statement, and I think the quality that was being discussed was about perseverance. Like, you want to really work hard and very determined and committed to make an improvement or a change. So that applicant, he had, it's called stuttering. He had a stuttering problem. And so that applicant was basically talking about how he, to prepare to come to the US, he then kind of went through this whole speech therapy and did very well after it, that kind of a thing. So again, that's basically show don't tell. So, you're basically trying to give a little bit more background of that quality, some more examples. So again, that requires a lot of thinking, and you have to come up with one, preferably in the medical setting. Give an example that shows you have that quality. It takes some time to do that thinking, but if you can apply that to patient care, that'll be great. Also working in non-medical jobs, yes, and having no proof of it. How to explain the gap? Okay, so non-medical jobs. So, well, you don't need to prove everything. I mean, for example, non-medical jobs. For example, let me think. There was someone who was talking about it. Like there was, yeah, for example, there was this Twitter thing that I posted about someone working at their own family business, like running the store. And that itself is a very good hook, really, because it tells you, I mean, when you're running a business, you're kind of, there are a lot of good qualities that you learn. Interaction, again, collaborating, teamwork, those kind of things. So you need to have, oh, you want to explain the gap. Okay. Well, this personal statement is the best place to do that. And you would also put in your ERAS CV about those, I don't know, volunteer experiences or whatever to try and fill up the gap and explain what happened. For example, someone, if they're going through like a difficult marriage or childbirth or something, you can certainly talk. That's not something you can put in your ERAS CV, but that's something you can put in your personal statement, and just do your very best to cover, to explain at least part of the gap that you have. How can I explain that I have resilience? So yeah, again, so this all these terms you have to think. You have to kind of look at yourself and think, how best can I show this? So again, like not passing an exam and then working hard to then score above average. That's good. That's quite good. Or resilience basically means you went through a tough time. There is. You're gonna have to look at your own situation as to was there a tough time. Well, family illnesses, that's kind of not really doesn't talk much about resilience, but something like maybe you were working on a research project and you didn't really have much help, or you didn't have all the resources, but you did the very best you could in those situations, worked hard, and then made it to a publication. That itself is that's more persistence, kind of not really resilience again. To another country, yeah, that's good enough. Yeah, moving to another country, and coming across barriers, that's good enough. Yes. I mean, because, but you're going to have to explain a little bit more why that is that shows resilience. That is, um, moving to a new country, maybe having financial issues, difficulties in the beginning, adjusting to a new culture, new way of life, um, and then kind of showing that how still you were willing to open up and get out of your comfort zone, and working with people, talking, interacting with people. I think that's good. And now another reason for the resilience might be, what were the difficult situations that caused you to move out? Like, for example, we've had some applicants from like the Middle East. There's a lot of unrest happening, and so they would talk about why there was a difficult transition. So that's good. And um, and that those would be a pretty good example for resilience too. But also see if you can figure out something in medicine, in med school training, if there was something that stands out in your mind. Working many hours while studying for exams. Okay. That is, yes, it is. Though everyone does it. So that, yeah, while studying for exams, uh, try to find something that's unique to you. For example, so I was reading a personal statement lately about, and they were talking about. She was talking about being very good at taking history and physical, and I when I gave feedback, I was like, okay, everyone is expected to do that, so that's kind of not very interesting. And so so we're kind of working on that. But stories that show how well you work under stress, yes, that'll be great under stressful situations. Someone coding, I guess. That might be some more examples. What's a typical range of number of words? Now, yeah, I got that question too. My suggestion would be fill up one page. Don't leave any empty. For example, I've seen, so I saw one personal statement that was like 3/4 long. So it didn't, so I'm like, that's kind of not good. It's like, you have to fill it up. So that's just use that as your benchmark. Don't Yeah. Now, how do you know if it's fits in a page? I understand that when you go to eras, and you do have the ability to print out your personal statement and see if it fits in a page. Because a lot of times now program directors are going to scan your, like by scan I mean like they're going to read through your personal statement as a PDF. Could you please share the link for personal statement proofreading? Yeah, so it's up there at my, you can see up there in the link, in the logo, ed4medus.com. You can look up there. That's my website, and see if I could be of help to review your personal statements. All right, I got one question here. What makes personal statement boring? Well, if it's boring if it's just you're just kind of, it's called regurgitation. If you're just regurgitating your CV, that makes it boring. So if you talk about, okay, I did my med school here, and then I did my clinical experience here, I did my research there, I did my teaching here. So if you're just like repeating your personal statement, that makes it makes it very boring, and they're going to outright, I'm not going to say reject it, but there's a lot of competition. We all have to accept that and work on making our application unique. So And so clearly just, not kind of talking about yourself and talking more about how good of a doctor, how good of, that you've got so many publications, you've got so many papers or presentations, that doesn't interest anyone because that's already mentioned in your CV. So redundancy, that is repeating, makes a personal statement very boring.